Come on, what up, Life Church? You guys excited to be in the house today? Come on, you can be a little more excited than that. I know it's 9 a.m. and you've just had your coffee. Some of you are still wiping the sleep out of your eyes. Some of you are here and excited because there's a Saints game at 12 today, and you're excited to get home. You've got something in the crock pot ready to go. So here's my deal with you today. I can either preach quick, and you get with me and say amen, or we can be here a mighty long. Come on, I like that. We can be here a mighty long time, and we'll roll out at 11:59. I'll make you a little bit late for the game. How about that? No, I'm kidding. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. It is really an opportunity to get up here on this stage and be able to speak to you. I know you guys usually see me singing on Sundays, so I love doing this. I want to thank Pastor Chad for this opportunity. He is the greatest pastor ever. Why don't you give your pastor some love today? Yeah. I am so excited to be on this team and a part of this team and a part of this Life Church family. And if I haven't had the pleasure to meet you before, my name is Zach, and I serve on team here at Life Church, and it is one of the greatest experiences my life has ever had. Second to, if you guys didn't know, me and my wife, we are expecting, and we find out in 2 weeks what we're having, so we're super, super excited about that. I'm all team baby right now, but I'm really team girl, team pink. But as long as the baby's happy and healthy, Dad's going to be happy and healthy, so I'm excited about that. So now that I'm becoming a dad, I've already started my really lame dad jokes. I've started practicing them, and Ange kind of punches me in the arm every time I say one, says I can't do that kind of stuff. So I figured I'd do something else, because usually when you start hitting fatherhood, and you get up in age, and guys, we fully mature at 25. I really think once we hit our peak at 25, that our brain suddenly starts declining. And so I want you to work with me today on something. Have you guys seen those puzzles that, like, can you find the difference in the pictures? Apparently, this is really supposed to keep your brain sharp, because you're supposed to look at the image and look at the subsequent images and be able to find the differences in them. So why don't you guys throw up my first one for me? All right. Can you find the difference in these ice cream cones? Okay. It took me I'm not going to lie. I'll just be totally ashamed of this. It took me about 5 minutes. If you look at the middle one, there is one white sprinkle that's not on the other ones. All right, I got another one for you. Go to the next one. That's the only difference to that one. All right, there's this one. All right, I'm going to give you 30 seconds and find as many differences as you can get. Ready? Go. I'm pretty sure I just heard all that. See, you guys are a lot smarter than I am. And I got one that's going to stump all of you. All right, throw my next one up and see if you can figure out the difference here. You guys got that. There's one. There's baby Adam, and then there's a full-grown mustache Adam. Why don't you guys give it up for the stash? Give it for Adam. Love Adam. That's my bud. But what I want to talk to you about today is from Luke 15. The whole chapter is Jesus teaching in parables. And if you guys don't know who Jesus is, we're going to talk about Jesus today. But if you don't know what a parable is really just like a fancy term for a story with a bigger point or a lesson that is trying to be taught. So Jesus, in this chapter, goes over 3 parables. And if you could follow along in your notes on the app, actually, I have the whole chapter in here for you, because I'm going to go through the first part really fast, and we're going to read the last part together, okay? I don't want to keep you here all day reading this. I want you to go home and read it, though. So this is the first part. The first part is about a lost sheep. And so Jesus is telling in this story that he's teaching, and he says a shepherd has 100 sheep. Okay, that's awesome. That's a lot of sheep. Well, he loses one, and then he goes out, and he finds the one, and he comes back, and he gets all his shepherd buddies, and they throw a massive party because he finds his lost sheep. And so we know the song is like, yes, okay, Jesus, this is actually, you're talking about yourself here, and that you'll go out and you'll find it. And so we find that the lost sheep here, and this is your first blank, is wayward. And the second part of this, the second parable in this story, there's a woman, and she has 10 coins, okay? And this is, I don't know if they're big coins, little coins, if they cost a lot, if they don't cost a lot. They don't talk about the value of the coins. It just talks about they're valuable and they're precious to the woman. Well, she has 10 coins, and then all of a sudden she counts the coins, and there's only 9 coins. And so she just doesn't well, that's just one coin. She goes and she turns up her whole house. She flips the couches. She flips the cushions. She checks under the table. She checks under the rug. She sweeps everywhere, and she finds the coin. And so that's fantastic. But what does she do next? She goes and she gathers everybody in her cul-de-sac, everybody in her neighborhood, and she throws a party for finding the coin that actually costs more than the value of the coin. And then Jesus sends this one too. He says, in the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels when one sinner repents. And so that's what he says about the first two parables. And we find, this is your second blank, that the lost coin is missing. And so this next part, we're going to read through this next part, and this is Luke 4, starting in verse 11. Jesus says this, and it's kind of a lengthy reading, so just follow with me, please. Jesus goes, to illustrate the point further, Jesus told them a story. He said a man had two sons. Everybody say two sons. There's a younger son, and there's an older son. How many firstborns in the house today? All right, how many babies in the house today? You guys are the bane of all of us firstborn. See, it's so bad I can't even get it out. You are the bane of all of the firstborns. I'm the firstborn in my family, and the baby is actually upstairs in LC Kids and Pajama Day. That kid has been so excited about Pajama Day, but I want to tell you, it was the easiest thing to get him dressed in this morning. He hopped up, he put his cowboy boots on with his pajamas, and he said, I'm ready to go to church today. It's Pajama Day. And so it was awesome. So LC Kids, they're amazing upstairs. If you guys haven't had a chance for your kids to go see what God is going to do through them upstairs, you need to do that. So anyways, back to this. The younger son, he told his father, and sometimes babies are a little irrational, so I'm not picking on you. We're talking about the baby in the story. He said, I want my share of your estate now before you die. And so the way things work back in the gap is that the father, the executor of the estate, when he died, would leave an inheritance. Now, it was traditional that the oldest child would always get the larger sum of the property and then would become the executor of the estate. And then the oldest would get at least half of it, and the rest would be divided amongst the other children. And so the younger one says, I want my share of your estate now before you even die. So his father actually agreed to this, and he divided his wealth between his two sons. So a few days later, this younger son packed up all his belongings, and he moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money in wild living. And this is why in this story they call him the prodigal son, because he blows all his money. He blows in his inheritance. He wastes it all. But watch, the story continues, and it says, about the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. And so this wasn't like college student broke, where he was balling when his refund check came in, and then he was on ramen noodles because he was on a normal budget. No, our younger brother, the baby here, can't even afford ramen noodles right now. Like this dude is bad off, okay? And so he goes to a local farmer, and he persuades him to hire him into his field to feed the pigs. He's so desperate that he can't just eat ramen noodles. He's got to feed pigs to do it. That's gross. I don't know if you guys ever fed pigs. I don't know if you guys ever had to chase a pig and wrestle a pig down. It's terrible. I know you're looking at me in my skinny jeans and my Chelseas and saying, boy, you ain't never wrestled a pig. I did it in skinny jeans and a Jordan, so now what's up? So the young boy, he became so hungry that even the pods the pig's feet were feeding on, so the junk that the pigs were feeding on looked amazing and delicious in him. He was looking at that buffet and thinking that was Texas State Brazil compared to what he was eating before when he was balling. And so and it says in 17 this, he said, when he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have enough food to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you. And so I am no longer worthy of being called your son, so please take me on as a hired servant. I don't even want to be your son. I just want to be a hired servant in your house. And so he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, I love this story, the father saw him coming, and filled with love and compassion. Everybody say love and compassion. He didn't just walk to his son. He didn't jog to his son. He ran to his son. He embraced him, and he kissed him. His son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. And the father stopped him right in the middle of his prepared speech, and he said to his servant, the father turned around and said, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on my son. Get a ring, the family ring for his finger, and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf we've been fattening, and we must celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine, he was dead, but now he is returned to life. He was lost, and now he is fine. And so the party began. I'm going to stop right there. Can you see the difference in the stories? One of the differences I don't see is that when Jesus talks about people coming home, there is a party and there is a celebration. So I want to say something here in this house today. God forbid that we ever become a house that forgets about when people come to Jesus and meet Jesus for the first time. I want to be the first one to celebrate with you. Did you repent of your sins? Amazing. Did you take your step in baptism today? I am so excited. Let's celebrate. Did you go to a life group? That's amazing. Did you start hosting a life? Come on, let's celebrate with that, because God says something. There is something special that all of heaven, that's all inclusive, all of heaven celebrates when one person comes to God. And God forbid the day when we come to church and we become a people where we don't even care about that anymore, but we become a museum of saints. This is a hospital for the broken. This place is a place for lost people to become found, the wayward, the missing, the people who need something more, who need hope. God forbid this ever be a place where that's that. So, meanwhile, So this is younger brother. So while this is all going on at the gate, the brother's off in the fields working, like he should have been, like the younger brother should have been this whole time, but he was off partying. Just remember that. When he returned home, he could hear the music and he could hear the dancing in the house. And so he's wondering what's going on. Why am I in the field working? There's a party going on in my house. And so he goes and asks what's the servants going on. And the servant told him, your brother is back. And your father has killed the fattened calf, and we are celebrating because of his safe return. The older brother was so angry he wouldn't even go in the house. He wouldn't even go in the house. And his brother was back after a long time. They thought the brother was dead. He wouldn't even go back in the house. So the father comes out to him, and the father, he asked, why aren't you coming back in? His father came out and begged him, but he replied, and the brother said this, that all of these years I've slaved for you, and I've never once refused to do a single thing that you told me to do. And in all that time, you never gave me even one young goat to have a feast in my honor and my name. Yet when this other son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf. And so what we've got here is we've got a little bit of a jealousy situation that the older brother is like, dude, father, what's up? What's the deal? I stayed in the house. I did what was right. I did what was good. I kept to my schedule. I kept to my chores. I was good with my money. I was good being the executor of this estate. I worked the fields. We were productive, and this guy gets to come back after squandering his money, after living and doing things that he should never had a spot with doing, and you throw the biggest party of the century for him. And he was mad. His father looks back to him, and he said, look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, and now he is found. And this is the third blank. The lost son, I believe, is revelation for us. The first part of this, it's about a wayward sheep, okay? It's 100 sheep. It's not too hard for someone to get lost in the mix or lost of what's going on, where the shepherd may have steered right, but one little sheep just on the fringe edge of the flock had just went over a little bit, and he went back and celebrates that, and God celebrates that. Or maybe there's 10 coins and one gets lost, but it's found, and we celebrate over that. But what happens when someone leaves and on their own accord comes back? Because what we find the difference in these stories is that the shepherd and the little woman went searching. But in the story of the son, the story of the lost son, nobody went looking for this kid. Nobody went looking for him. Even though they knew he was probably making the biggest mistake of his life, no one went searching for him. And if you actually look at this parable And remember the ending? The father simply says, your brother was dead and he's come back to life. He was lost and he was found. This story doesn't have an ending. Because we're like, what happens after this? What happens? Do the brothers rekindle? Do they become homies again? Are they dapping? And they're like, yo, what's up, bro? I'm so happy to see you. Are they mad for the rest of their lives? Does he kick them off the estate? Like does the father help sit down at the table and help them counsel this out? Like, what goes on? Jesus doesn't answer that. This is the end of Luke 15. That's the last verse. Starts chapter 16. Whole another set of parables. Whole other occurrences of things happening. It's like Jesus leaves us on a cliffhanger. Either that or Jesus doesn't know how to tell a story, which I don't think is true, because all these other parables make sense in a way. But what I believe is different about this parable, what I believe is, as we spot the difference in this parable, is that Jesus didn't want an ending for a reason. He wanted to leave it right where it was at and for you to figure out the rest. I believe there's revelation in the lost son. It's really easy to be excited and celebrate when we find the lost one, when someone comes to Jesus because we went searching. But what about when someone came home? I don't think the sake of the story is about what happens after, but I think it's about what happens at the end. Because I really believe Jesus is making reference to something in the Old Testament and answering the first question that mankind ever asked God. You guys know what that question is? It says in Genesis 4 and 9, and this is the story of Cain and Abel, the first two brothers in humanity. These are Adam and Eve's first sons. Cain had already killed his brother at this point. It says, afterward the Lord asked Cain, where is your brother? Where is Abel? And this is Cain's response. This is humanity's first question back to God. And you can go check this. It's real. He says, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? Out of anything that humanity could ask God, he asked him, am I my brother's keeper? I'm here to tell you today, and from reading the Bible and studying the Bible, that it's a resounding yes. That yes, we are our brother's keeper. But what I believe is that Jesus was trying to point out a couple of things in this story and seeing, can you spot the difference in it? Because if we're really real with ourselves, so let's take our mask of Christianity on, that we're all in our Sunday best and everything in our world's fine and dandy and it looks great and everything's awesome and amazing. When we read the story and we put ourselves in the older brother's shoes, some of us would actually relate to him and be ticked at the whole situation. I know sure well that when I was working at Chick-fil-A and somebody left and they came back and they got a promotion over me and I had stayed and I had worked the extra hours and I had deserved the raise and they got a promotion over me, I was furious. I was livid. I told Jesus to go sit in a corner for a minute. I had to deal with this, and I was making the Lord's chicken. All right? But we're human, okay? We're human. Don't act like you ain't never done it before. Because we have this innate sense in us of earning and deserving. Oh, I earned that. I earned that spot. I earned that position. I earned that reward. I earned those things. I deserve it. What did you do? Because some of us, let's just be real, can be like the older brother. Man, I don't understand. They left out on this whole Jesus thing. They went and did their own mess. They got themselves into their own trouble. While I've been here, I've been serving God. I've been showing up early on Sundays. I've been dealing with kids on Sundays, and them little tears are pulling my hair out. I've been tithing. I've been doing everything that I know to do to serve Jesus. And how come when they come back, they look like they're more blessed than I am? That somebody threw them a party, and you can't even spare a goat for me, but you get the biggest, fattest calf that you can, and you throw the biggest roast and the biggest party. Because I'm telling you, the people in the crowd have been like, well, yeah, Jesus. No, duh. The brothers should be mad. But I think Jesus was trying to point something else out. Because if we were to look at this in a cultural context, when the father divided the land, when the father divided the land up, the father gave up the inheritance before he was even dead. So you know what the father did? He just retired early. And the older son actually became the executor of the estate. So when his father said, all that I have is yours, he literally meant it. Legally, all that the father had, the older son owned. All the land, all the calves, all the sheep, all the servants, all the gold, all the wealth was his. And he's complaining because his broke younger brother came back, and his father welcomed him back in the home. Father didn't say he could have anything, because technically he can't say he can have anything back. But he welcomed him back in the house. Because what should have happened, as the brother is the executor of the state, the brother would have been responsible for his brother. The brother should have been the older brother that went looking for the younger brother. And I think that's what Jesus is trying to show us. Because when we read these stories, when we read these parables, it's obvious that Jesus is the shepherd that goes and finds the one and brings it back to the flock, that Jesus is a representation of, the woman is a representation of Jesus, turning everything around so he can find the lost coin, which is you and I. And we look at this story, and we play Jesus as the role of the father, which I do think is right. But you know what I also think? I also think Jesus is setting the example of the older brother that we wish we all had, that would have came looking for us. Because in these stories, we find ourselves at some point, whatever walk in your, whatever time or point or period you're at in your walk with Jesus. Some of us feel like that wayward sheep, that like we've been in this Jesus thing for a while, and maybe we're on the fringe edge, and you know God's steering this way, and we just messed up a little bit, stumbled this way, but the shepherd just pulled us back. Let's party. Let's get excited. Some of us feel like we're just straight up, we've been missing. We've been missing out on church. We've been missing out on life group. We've been missing out on all this stuff. And Jesus comes and he turns our life upside down. And he finds us, and we celebrate. But some of us, because God has given us the choice of free will, have just, you know what, I don't know. Maybe doubt has crept in. Maybe confusion has crept in. And we've gone and we've made our own choices. Maybe we feel like the lost son. Now we're out, we're trying to figure this out on our own. We're trying to make ends meet. We're trying to make all this stuff happen. We're trying to take care of our family. We're trying to take up a messed up situation at work. Like we're failing in school. Like we don't understand what's going on because we've made all these decisions for our own. And we've got this grand speech ready to come back to God and ready just to weep and say, God, I know I'm not worthy. I know I don't deserve grace. I know I don't deserve any of this, but can you let me back in the house? And what I believe he's showing through the Father is that I'll let you back in at any point in time. I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you've been. I don't care if you squandered what I gave you. I will let you back in my house. I will put my robe on you. I will put my signet, my ring on you, identifying you as mine, and you will be my child. I believe that's the Jesus that we serve. But what I also believe in this story that he is trying to show is he is also saying, I am the big brother that you've longed for. Because I know if I messed up and I failed that bad, oh God, I'd be in that pig pen. God, help me. Send me somebody. Send me somebody. And culturally, it was the big brother's responsibility to go and look. But who ran out of the gate? It was the father. And so this crowd, instead of relating so much to the older brother, should have had an aha moment of what Jesus was really trying to tell them. Because what Jesus was telling them is that I came to seek and save that which was lost. I came that you might have life and life more abundantly. I came and I knew no sin, and I would never know sin, but I would take on all of your sin and go to a cross and die in your place. That even though you squandered this life that I gave you, you squandered this time, this currency of eternity that I've given you, that I will buy it all back with my blood. And I will be the brother that you've always been looking for. You know what the Bible calls Jesus? Calls him the firstborn of man. Guess what that makes him? Your older brother. Drop the mic. Come on now. That's what Jesus was trying to show and trying to illustrate to these people, because the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, the people who knew the Torah, the people who knew the scriptures, were scratching their heads because they thought Jesus was an idiot for what he was teaching, because it did not make sense in terms of their law. But can I tell you something? God's love is illogical. God's love cannot compute in our brains. All I know is that I know it's for me. I know I can accept it, and I can live out my life, the rest of my life in it. And I know it's not just for me, but it's for somebody else too. It is for somebody else. And so I don't know where you're at or what's been going on in your life, but I can tell you that whatever point in the story of your life that you're in, whether you feel like a sheep or whether you feel like a lost coin, whether you feel like the younger brother or maybe you even feel like the older brother right now, can I tell you there is a God ready to meet you right at this moment and this point in your life and wants to do something amazing. Because what we find is that Jesus was willing to be the older brother. Romans 5:8 says this, but God showed us his great love by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. While we were still sinners. Jesus took a chance on you, forsook all of heaven, all of eternity, had no need to sleep, no need to slumber, no need to eat, no need to pay the light bill because he's the light of all of heaven. No need for anything. And he wrapped himself in flesh. And he was born into an unsanitary place. And he was raised in a very unsafe time, so much that a king wanted to kill him when he was an infant, that he had to go hide out in another country. He went through the temptation that we did. He walked through the situations that we did. He was tempted with the same things that you and I are tempted with on the daily. Well, Jesus didn't have an iPhone. It's the same thing. It's just a new day and new age. This is available in your pocket now. He lived through the same as we did and knew no sin, yet all the failures and the screw-ups and the mistakes that we made, he went to Calvary and he died and he paid the full price for, just knowing that he might have a chance of a relationship with you. John 13:15 says this, there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. No greater love. I don't know about you, but I haven't had the opportunity to lay myself down for somebody else's life. But I know somebody who laid their life down for me, and he's willing to lay down his life for you. You know what Jesus says at one point in the New Testament? He says the first commandment is this: love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. Awesome. You know what he says the second greatest commandment is? He said it's just as great as the first. Love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said that. I ain't saying that. Jesus said that. You take it up with him. But guess what? It said 11 other times in the New Testament. You think he's trying to make a point? 11 times. Love one another. Love your neighbor as I have loved you. I don't know about you, but this grace that is on my life, believe me, I don't deserve it. I've done enough stupid things. I've made enough stupid mistakes. I've squandered what God has given me. But I am able to stand in a place and say, you know what? Even though I've done that thing, even though I was that person, even though I failed and I was caught up in addiction, even though I made that mistakes and I tore my life up and I tore other people's lives up, God was able to step in and said, I died for you. I gave my life for you. I have more for you. And guess what? You may thought you squandered everything, but I have the cattle of 1,000 hills. This universe is mine, and I can give you more. God's love is illogical because it's supposed to be. If God's love was like our love, then he wouldn't be God, and you and I wouldn't be sitting in a house of grace, a hospital for the broken, where people can find, to a place that we can find hope and they can find health for their spirit and for their mind, that they can find a place where they can connect into purpose and they can connect into who God wants them to be. Because once we get to our end of our logic, when we get to the end of who we are, when we find at the end of ourself, is where you find the beginning of Jesus. Because you know what? We'll never be enough to make it through this life on our own. And I'm okay with saying that, because I don't know about you, but I need Jesus. And I need Jesus every morning that I wake up, before I put my feet out the bed. Jesus, I need you. I need you today. I don't know if somebody's going to cut me off at traffic and I want to wave that they're number one. I don't know what's going to happen today. I don't know if I'm going to wake up and I'm going to try to drive somebody home and somebody's going to rear end me and destroy my car. That happened to me this summer. I don't know. But what I do know is that I need you, Jesus. I'm about to be a dad. I need you, Jesus. I'm trying to lead a house. I need you, Jesus. I'm trying to help lead other people to you. Oh, my goodness. I need you, Jesus. I deal with teenagers every day. Jesus, I need you. Come on, parents. As the band comes and join me on stage. Can you give it up for the band today? Didn't they do amazing? Girl power today. Come on. I think the one in the middle was really cute, though. I might have to ask her out later. That's a hard job now that she's eating for two. If I can give anything to you today, if you want to take something, it's less than 140 characters. Actually, Twitter's expanded that so you can tweet more now. If you want to take something, you want to make a sticky statement and something to just realize today and hold into place, is this: that I would rather be a small part of the solution rather than a silent part of the problem. I would rather be a small part of the solution than a silent part of the problem. Because the same grace that I've been given is not meant to be contained within me. Because I cannot contain the fullness of God. I am human. Neither can you contain the fullness of God. But the grace that is on your life, the mercy that you've experienced, the experience that you've had in Jesus, guess what? There are other people who need to feel that, who need to know that, who need to experience it firsthand. And so what I want to ask you today, as we're wrapping up here, what is your next step? Where are you at? Where are you at in your story? Maybe you don't know anything about this whole Jesus thing. Can I tell you that Jesus, the creator of the universe, died for you and accepted you into his house and called you his own? And today is the day of salvation, and you can commit to that today, and God can do something amazing in your life. Well, maybe, hey, Zach, I've already done that. Amazing. And I celebrate with you, brother and sister. It's amazing. We're a part of one big family. But maybe you feel like, man, doubt's creeping in, and I don't have all the answers to the questions, and man, I'm having a rough time at work, and maybe I even slipped up last night, and I don't know. Can I tell you that God still accepts you back into his house? Or maybe some of us have been living for God for so long that we've forgotten what the joy of salvation was. You know, David prayed that when he was at his lowest. He prayed, God, restore to me the joy of my salvation. Let us never forget what it was like when we experienced Jesus for the first time. Let us never forget what it was like when we experienced the joy in baptism. Let us never forget the experience of what it was like when we felt that call of God on our life to do something more, to be something more. And maybe you've been the older brother that for a while now you've been sitting on the sidelines, and I'm tending to what is mine. I'm tending to the portion that God has given me. I'm tending to the fields where God has placed me, and I'm trying to be a good steward of what God has given me. And I commend you for that. But I want to challenge you with the words of Jesus today. Are we being the older brother that God wants us to be? Are we really our brother's keeper? Because some of us have been sitting on the sidelines so long that God is trying to call you out to do something great. Because there's people outside of these doors that need to experience Jesus. And maybe, just maybe, God is saying, I want you to start a life group. Maybe, just maybe, you could start the life group that helps keep someone out of addiction, that helps people who've been divorced either rekindle their marriages or find some kind of restoration and healing in what God has for their life. Maybe you can be the one who can do a student life group, and you can help direct some wayward students back to God, or help keep them on the straight and narrow so they don't find someone else in school and lose their virginity, or get caught up in pornography, or get caught up in drugs, or get caught up in something else. Maybe it's your time to be the older brother that God has called you to be. Because there's people on our streets here that are hungry. There's people on our streets here that are homeless. There are people that are on our streets that are so caught up in heroin and meth that they're out of their mind and they don't even know what to do. And they're doing it because they're looking for hope. So I'm asking today, and I'm not coming here to rag on you guys, because this put me on my face first. I would never come across this stage and preach something to you that it first preached to me. And I want to ask today, before we ever step into 2019 and try to make some new year's resolutions, can we decide today that we want to change and that we want to be difference makers, and we want to be the ones who change our city, and I want to be the face of Jesus that someone sees. I want to be the one in my school who is making a difference. I want to be the one at work who is making a difference. Why don't we all stand up across this house today? My challenge to you is this: rather than making a New Year's resolution, and I think, if you want to lose weight, that's amazing, and you want to change all this stuff, I think those things are great. You're planning for a marathon without even taking the first step. What I believe is that God has called us to something so much more, and He's made it clear what's next for us. And I don't know who you are or where you're at in your story in life, but I believe there's a clear next step for you. There's a clear next step so you can step into life, and life more abundantly, as Jesus calls it. And I don't know what life more abundantly looks for you like now, but what I can tell you, and I'm not one of those people who just blab it and grab it, prophesy it and watch it happen. But what I believe is that if you really want to live your greatest year yet, your greatest moment in life yet, stop living it for yourself and start living it for somebody else. Stop living life just for yourself and live for other people. Why? Because we do life in community. We do life together because that's what Jesus taught. And you bet that I'm going to have people at my house where we'll be talking about Jesus. We're going to be playing Mario Kart. We're going to be doing something that we can be hanging out together, and we can have a moment, an opportunity where Jesus can step into the room and say, hey, prodigal son, I've been looking for you. Hey, lost coin, I found you. Hey, wayward sheep, come on back to the flock, and we're going to throw a party. And you know what? I wish 2019 would be a year that we celebrate, because we can't fit anybody else in this house, because this house is full, because we went and we looked and we found. And so if that's you today, whether you're the coin, you're the sheep, you're the lost son, or you're the older brother, I want you to come join me around the front today, because we're going to pray, and we're going to just take this moment and say, God, I want you to move, and I want you to work, and you know right where I'm at, and I want to see